Right, it does. And if you want to jump in, it's 866-439-5277. Emails to talk@larslarson.com. At the beginning of this hour, I mentioned to you that Hillary Clinton is pushing the idea of vote by mail. And there are current members of Congress who say they want to somehow tag on vote by mail at the national level to the next coronavirus bill. And let's hope that doesn't go anywhere. But I wanted to ask Tom Fitton about this from Judicial Watch, because I think Tom has the same concern I do about protecting our elections. And Tom, I don't know about you, but I experience vote by mail because I live in a state that has it. It is a tremendously bad idea, and it is fraught with opportunities for fraud. Welcome back, by the way.
Hey, good to be with you again, Lars.
So what's going on here that the Democrats have decided that a coronavirus aid bill is the perfect opportunity to push vote by mail? And the only thing the federal government could do, since states define how they're going to vote, is push the idea that all of the mail would be free, it'd be franked, or in some way made postage free to make it easier. But I just think this is a colossally bad idea, having had experience with vote by mail.
Oh, it would destroy our election in 2020. The issues with vote by mail in the states that have it aside, the idea that Congress could come in, tell states to change their election systems on a whim, where you would have all of a sudden millions of ballots going into state polling locations or facilities that are not prepared or have the staff to deal with it, and then have all those ballots counted. You think the Iowa caucus was bad?
It'd be terrible. And I'll tell you, Tom, some of the devil is in the details, because in vote by mail states, for instance, if you have a state that doesn't require you to register for a party, and there are states like that, Washington State happens to be one of them, the elections officials have literally told people to put their name and their party registration on the outside of what's called the privacy envelope, because you end up with two envelopes. You have a ballot that's to be counted by computer. It goes into a privacy envelope that goes into an outer envelope that is the actual piece of mail. Then when it gets where it gets to the elections headquarters, they take the inner envelope out, and right there is my name and my party registration on the outside of what is my ballot on the inside. And you imagine the opportunities for elections workers to say, oh, another Republican vote, I know where that's going to go, the round file. And yes, it can happen. And the other problem is that when you're doing vote by mail, you often have stacks and stacks of extra blank ballots that are sitting around the elections headquarters on election night. And if you can't imagine how that might work out, throw a few hundred votes in. You remember that Florida in 2000 was decided by 500 votes, and we got George Bush instead of Al Gore. The same kind of thing can happen on a national election this time around, too. And yet they're trying to dangle this out to the states saying, hey, we'll do it, and we'll pay for the postage at the federal level with more printed money, I guess.
Well, look, Washington State, for instance, they've got, as you point out, they've got vote by mail. They don't require any ID of note in order to vote by mail. Nope. I guess in theory you can present it. There's no voter ID, photo ID required. So in order to get vote by mail instituted nationally, it means you overturn the voter ID laws of 35 states. No voter ID anywhere if you're going to get vote by mail. And, of course, you can't have vote by mail, according to the left, without ballot harvesting, where during a pandemic, evidently, you have people going around banging on doors collecting ballots that will be deposited and collected by who and where, who knows. If you were designing a way to steal an election, these are the sorts of things you put in place.
And by the way, the ballot harvesting you're talking about, Tom, just to give people an idea, think about old folks' homes, long-term care facilities, where you have people who may not even be aware of the election. But if there's a ballot that comes with their name on it, and it can be, typically in poll elections, you're not allowed to go to the polling place and even wear a shirt that says Trump or says Biden on it, because you're not allowed to politic at a polling place. But you can politic all day long. Somebody can sit down in an old folks' home and say, here, sir, let me help you with your ballot. What is it? Who do you want to vote for? And they're allowed to sit right there and politic. It can happen in families as well. hey, mom and dad would like you to bring your ballots over, and we're all going to sit down at the kitchen table and vote. And you can imagine how that goes in some situations where people can be pressured to vote a particular way. And all of that, which was impossible with poll voting. With poll voting, you could walk in, close the curtain, and vote for whoever you wanted. And I know there were people who probably said, I voted for, Mondale when they actually voted for Reagan. And
Right.
they walked out of the polling place because it was their business who they voted for. With vote by mail, it can be everybody's business, unfortunately.
It necessarily undermines the integrity and privacy of the vote. And Judicial Watch did a study last year, found 2.5 million extra names on the rolls. So are these ballots going to be mailed to people who don't live there or people who've moved away? Talk about a recipe for fraud there. There's no way this can take place, and the fact that Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, the entire left are pushing it shows you that this threat is not going to disappear. The coronavirus, I'm sure, will be curtailed. Let's say it's curtailed.
Yeah.
But this effort is not going to disappear. Coronavirus is just the latest excuse to push it. And believe me, they're going to ride the coronavirus through November to try to upend our election system. The coup failed to overthrow the president, so they're going to try to steal the election through fraud.
And let me throw you one more phenomena of vote by mail, Tom. You know that most kids who are going off to college, and that's probably a third, maybe even as much as 40% of young men and women coming out of high school, they go off to college. And many of them say, I want to go to college somewhere other than the town I live in.
Right.
Some kids go to college locally. But one of the phenomena that I don't think anybody's explored adequately is you may be registered to vote back at home. And if you get a mail ballot back at home at mom and dad's house, but you're off in some other state or at least in some other city going to college, you'll get a ballot there. And you get the ballot weeks before the election. It would be kind of tough to, go to school in Boston and then travel home to Florida and vote in both places on the same day unless you had a lot of airline ticket miles. But if you get a ballot at home and a ballot at college and you vote twice, how's anybody to know? And I don't even know if there is a way to look at that phenomena to say, are people double registered in two different states and they cast two ballots and they figure I really want Biden, or they probably really wanted Bernie, and they say, well, I'll be able to vote twice for him. Multiply that by a few thousand or a few tens of thousands of college students, and all of a sudden you've got something that's an entire game changer for the whole country. Tom Fitton heads up Judicial Watch. We're always glad for him to come on the program. Thanks very much for listening tonight. I'm glad that you're safe out there. I hope that you're staying home right now, and I hope that even when America gets back to work, which we can hope will happen very, very soon, that when you go back to work, you're going to be very, very careful. Life has to change in America. No more handshakes, maybe not even fist bumps. We got to make sure that America comes out of this, and we come out of it stronger than ever before. You got the Lars Larson Show.